In the next 30 seconds, I'm going to tell you why the single biggest climate bill in US history just got wiped off the map, and how it's not just killing the electric car industry, but our entire clean energy future. Billions in investments? Gone. Hundreds of new factories? Canceled. The culprit is President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill Act of 2025. But here's the shocking part that no one is talking about. A new study from Carnegie Mellon reveals that by killing EV adoption, we're also killing the incentive to build a cleaner power grid. How is that possible? And did the US just hand the keys to the entire 21st century auto industry directly to China? We're breaking down the devastating ripple effects right now. If you want to understand the real forces shaping the future of transportation, you need to be subscribed to Electric Vehicle Empire. All right, let's get straight into it. To understand the scale of what just happened, we have to rewind to 2022. The Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA, was passed. Regardless of your politics, for the EV industry, it was like injecting rocket fuel into a race car. It wasn't just about consumer tax credits. It was a massive strategic push with huge incentives, designed to do two things: accelerate EV adoption and, crucially, build a complete American EV supply chain from the ground up, specifically to compete with and break our dependence on China. And it worked. The response was immediate and colossal. We saw a tsunami of investment announcements. Hundreds of new battery manufacturing plants, mineral processing facilities, and assembly lines were planned across the country. It was the dawn of a new American industrial era, centered on electrification. Then came 2025. President Trump signed the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, and with a stroke of a pen, it was all gone. The incentives vanished. The investment pipeline didn't just slow down, it collapsed. The phone calls to construction companies stopped. The blueprints for new factories were rolled up and put away. This isn't just a policy change, it's a screeching, tire-smoking, full-blown emergency brake on American progress. Now, the immediate consequence is obvious, and it's what most headlines will focus on. Fewer incentives mean EVs are more expensive for the average American. Slower adoption means more gasoline-powered cars on the road for longer, which means more transportation emissions. Transportation and electricity generation are the two biggest sources of greenhouse gas emissions in the US. Hitting the brakes on EVs is a massive step backward for the climate. But the real story, the one that has much deeper and more dangerous implications, is about global competitiveness. For decades, the US, Europe, and Japan dominated the auto industry with the internal combustion engine. It was a complex technology they had perfected. But EVs are mechanically much simpler. This simplicity created a once-in-a-century opening for a new player to change the game. China saw this opening and bet the farm on it. Through massive government investment, strategic incentives, and relentless experimentation, China didn't just start building EVs, they set out to dominate the entire supply chain. From mining and processing critical materials like lithium, cobalt, and nickel, to manufacturing the battery cells to assembling the final vehicle, they control it all. The IRA was our first serious strategic response to this. It was our big play to get back in the game. Now, by rolling it back, we've effectively forfeited. We're telling the world that we are not serious about competing for the dominant technology of the next 100 years. But the most overlooked consequence, and perhaps the most damaging, is what this does to our electricity grid. This is what the new study from my alma mater, Carnegie Mellon University, brings to light, and it's a critical piece of the puzzle. You see, many people think of EVs as simply adding a new burden to an already strained power grid. More EVs mean we need more electricity, right? Yes, but the key question is, where does that new electricity come from? The researchers at Carnegie Mellon ran the numbers for scenarios all the way to 2050. They modeled how the nation's power grid would have to respond to millions of new EVs plugging in, and they found something incredible, a powerful, positive feedback loop.
Here's how it works. When you create new, consistent demand for electricity, like millions of cars charging overnight, the utility companies and power producers need to build new power plants to meet that demand. When they decide what kind of plant to build, they look at the cost. And today, the cheapest forms of new electricity generation are solar and wind. Once a wind turbine or solar farm is built, the fuel, the wind and the sun, is free. A natural gas or coal plant has to constantly buy fuel to burn. This makes the operating cost of renewables incredibly low. Because they're so cheap to run, the grid is programmed to use their power first whenever it's available. So the increased demand from EVs sparks the development of more wind and solar farms. And here's the kicker. Those new clean power plants don't only provide power when EVs are charging, they feed clean energy into the grid 24/7, displacing more expensive and dirtier fossil fuel generation across the board. This creates a virtuous cycle. 1. More EVs lead to higher electricity demand, which leads to more investment in cheap renewables like solar and wind, which leads to a cleaner overall power grid for everyone, which in turn makes the EVs on the road even cleaner. It's a 2-for-1 climate solution. Encouraging EV adoption isn't just a transportation policy, it's one of the most effective power sector policies we have. By killing the EV incentives, the Trump administration hasn't just slammed the door on clean transportation, they have broken this virtuous cycle. Without that guaranteed new demand from EVs, the economic incentive to rapidly build out new solar and wind projects weakens. We miss the opportunity to clean up our power grid. We get locked into our older, dirtier, more expensive fossil fuel infrastructure for longer. We're essentially choosing to pollute more in our two biggest emitting sectors, transportation and power generation, at the exact moment scientists are screaming that the window to act is closing. Let's be clear. The global transition to electric vehicles is happening whether the U.S. government participates or not. Battery prices have plummeted. Performance and range are now competitive with gasoline cars, and the rest of the world is moving forward. The U.S. government cannot stop this global shift. It can only decide whether America will lead it, lag behind, or actively resist it. By rolling back these incentives, we are choosing to lag. We are choosing higher emissions. We are choosing to sacrifice American leadership in a critical future industry. And we are choosing to miss a golden opportunity to accelerate the cleanup of our entire energy system. This isn't just about cars. It's about a fundamental misunderstanding of how technology, economics, and energy systems interconnect in the 21st century. It's a strategic blunder with consequences that will echo for decades. What do you think? Is this a temporary setback, or has the U.S. auto industry's future been permanently damaged? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching Electric Vehicle Empire.